welcome. This is a video just about the leading edge Model D. This is a personal computer that was produced in 1985, and it's essentially an IBM clone. So what that means is it was designed to run all of the IBM software at the time, but it wasn't an actual IBM PC. It was a pretty much a copy of it, a third-party knockoff, yet still allowed you to run all those applications at a reduced price for the computer. So this is my leading edge Model D. I made a video about this about 7 years ago, and I was a lot younger and had this like really squeaky voice, and I've always wanted to redo this video and just kind of show it off once again. So without further ado, here is the leading edge Model D. So this leading edge Model D has two 5¼ inch floppy drives. They are manufactured by Toshiba, and they are double-sided drives, 5¼ inch, unlike the Apple II single-sided 5¼ inch drives. And these are half height instead of, again, full height over here. Anyways, so they sold this computer with two configurations, one of which you see here with the two 5¼ inch floppy drives, and another where you could have a 5¼ inch floppy drive on the top and a hard drive on the bottom. But this has no internal hard drive. It's just two floppy drives to run MS-DOS, and that's it. Also on the front of the computer you can see there's a power switch and a reset button. And then there is, behind this grill, just a little basic PC speaker right behind there. With the computer came this mechanical keyboard. It's leading edge branded. This is a Blue Alps mechanical keyboard. So they use Blue Alps switches. They don't exist anymore, but they have this really loud and tactile sound to them. Really, I've not used many mechanical keyboards in my life, but this definitely feels good and very solid. It's got a wonky kind of keyboard layout. It's got the function keys all the way over to the left right here. It's got this really, really wide space bar, as you can see. Caps lock is down here. We've got Alt on the bottom left corner, which is kind of weird. And it's got this L-shaped enter key, which I like, just like that. So that's the mechanical keyboard. This is an XT style keyboard, so not an AT. AT is similar to PS2, so you would be able to adapt it to another computer without an active adapter. This is XT style, so it requires an XT style computer. Also with the computer came a leading edge branded monitor. However, this is not what I have currently. The leading edge branded monitors all pretty much, didn't last very long. They were known to break, so everyone would buy another monitor with these computers. And so this one is a Magnavox monitor. It's an RGB color monitor 80. So this is a color monitor. Originally, the leading edge came with a monochrome monitor that had a yellow tint to the monochrome colors. Whereas this is an actual color monitor with a monochrome setting if you want. It also has composite in, and you can switch the text to green if you'd like using that button. And of course all of the different settings for a monitor. But it does have internal speakers. So again, with the composite you can actually use the sound composite. It's only mono audio, but it does have internal speakers on this monitor. However, the computer does not have an audio output. It just goes to that PC speaker right on the front there. So that's pretty much the leading edge, on the outside. So now with it plugged in, we are going to boot up our leading edge. The monitor is hooked up to the system unit, so the monitor turns on at the same time. And what it'll do is it'll just run the BIOS, and it'll perform a RAM check. I need to change this to the right format. There we go. So it's doing a RAM test, Phoenix ROM BIOS version 2.01. So while it's running through the RAM, we're going to grab our boot disk, and we have the original leading edge Model D 2.11 basic version of MS-DOS here, and we're just going to put it in the A drive right here. Oop, wasn't in time. There we go. So this is DOS 2.11, Microsoft 1984. It asks for the date and time because the internal clock battery is dead, which I will remove it very soon. so it doesn't corrupt or corrode and ruin the motherboard. Also with this computer we have diagnostics disk that came with leading edge Model D, and then we have various other programs and versions of DOS, but right now we're on the command line, as you can see, in the A drive. Again, DOS 2.11. And so let's put in another floppy disk. These are various boot disks. And here's a program, JDraw. This is Johnny Vegas Poker. It's a poker game. So we'll put that in and we'll do a DIR. And as you can see, we got Poker.exe. And there we go. It's Johnny Vegas Poker version 1.01, 1989. Now, I don't really know how to play poker. I've only really learned from this game, just playing it multiple times. But I really, if in real life I were dealt a hand of cards, I would have no idea what to do. But as you can see, it shows you a little bit of cards there. And you can select what you want to do. Let's do call. Call again. Again, I have no idea how to play this game, so if you're really into poker, you're probably going to yell at me because I really don't know what to do. I'm just, let's see. I'm assuming this is a bad hand. I think it's a bad hand. I'm just going to draw all of them. Oh, okay, I can't draw more than 3. Yeah, it's about the same. Fold. So the other guy won. Anyway, so that's pretty much Johnny Vegas Poker. I do have this in DOSBox because I was curious if it was a game I could find online, and I could, although it's not too popular, I don't think. I believe it's shareware. And so it goes back to the command line for us, yay. Instead of having to put in another boot disk. Because if the program didn't have... Sometimes the programs won't dump you back to the command line. You'll have to re-put in a DOS boot disk and have to reboot it. So just some other programs just to run through just to show you guys. Let's try Lotus 123. And there's the color version of Lotus 123. And that's just going to be a 1, 2, 3. Oop, that's the program name. So this is copyright 1985. This predates Microsoft Excel. It is essentially an older version of Excel. And I do have the color and monochrome version of this program. The way I get these discs is I find them just people throwing them away, and some that the previous owner of this computer had originally. But so I've got actually 2 versions, and this is the color version, which takes advantage of the color monitor we have here. And you have all of your different settings and help stuff right here. That's pretty much it. You know, it's just, it works as you expect. So you can make your, you know, wonderful spreadsheets. Oh, I just went all the way to the bottom to cell 8,192. Ooh. Okay, now I can't. Anyways, so that's Lotus 123 pretty much in a nutshell. I actually don't really know exactly how to use this, like the functions or the you know, different things like that, but there you go, Lotus 123. So I don't believe there's a really easy way to exit this program, at least that I've found, so we're just going to have to do a hard reset. Insert our boot disk again and reset the computer. So I'll do a RAM test, but you can skip this by pressing enter, or I think any key. So again, enter date, let's skip that, and let's go back, let's find another disk. This is interesting, it's called Games. We'll run that too. This is another disk I found just lying around, someone was just throwing away. And this just contains a bunch of games. pretty much. It's an assortment here. There's something called, you know, tic-tac-toe, and there's something called life, which is actually interesting. I have no idea how this program works, or what exactly it's for. If you've ever heard of this game, please let me know. I do need instructions, but it doesn't really tell you much. It tells you how, you know, living cells kind of operate, but it really doesn't. I don't really get the actual point of this game. No. So pretty much you move around, and you can see the cursor there, and plus adds a cell. Okay, boom, there's a person. And as you can see, it's a little ASCII character, and it's a smiley face, if you can't really see there. Again, the screen isn't blinking in real life. That's just the CRT doing its refreshes. So you pretty much, you put some smiley faces down, I guess, which are different colonies of people. I'm not sure. And then enter to run. And what it'll do is it's going to run through, and there goes all the other cells of people, I guess. And it's just kind of exponentially increasing in size, I guess. And it's got all sorts of cool patterns, but I'm not really sure what it's doing. It's just kind of running. And I've waited for a while and nothing seems to happen. It just keeps growing and changing shapes, and then it eventually, like what it does now, it'll stop, and that'll be it. And you can see it's changing generation, whatever that is. So I guess people aren't moving. But if you know what this program does, what this game does, let me know, because I'm kind of curious. But let's escape. So we need command.com, so we need our floppy disk. And strike any key. There we go. So there's something called the Student Edition of MathCAD. It's pretty much just a math kind of programming interface. I'm not actually really, again, sure on how these work. A lot of these programs I just throw in and see how what they do, and I have no idea how to use them. Here's something called Turbo Pascal. I actually have the book for this assortment of books here. We have MS-DOS, the tricks of the MS-DOS masters, and then inside the IBM PC, just kind of two books which relate to this computer. So this is Turbo Pascal. It's, I believe, a programming type of system. So work file name. Hi. Oh, it's loading a file. There we go. So now we're in some sort of, yeah, programming interface. You know, I have no idea how to use this language at all, and that's pretty much it. I don't know exactly how to use this thing. Escape doesn't seem to do anything. Anyways, boot disk once again. We'll let the RAM test go. Here's something that's really interesting. This is a Boston Computer Society floppy disk on graphics and text formatting. So this is another thing I just found. My thought is this is some sort of, you know, competition or like a demonstration of someone's programming. So this might be like a homemade program that someone made, and I just picked it up. So we're gonna find out how it works once the RAM test completes. There we go. Alright, a lot of files here. Let's do, I think the program name is 3D for this. And so asks you color 1 through 16. Let's do 16. Program or disk? Program. 3-core display? Sure. Oh, nope, yes. How many X slices? Let's do 50. How many Z slices? Let's do 50 as well. All right, so here's the leading edge Model D all opened up and ready to look inside. Let's take a look at the back first. It's actually not plugged into the wall. It's plugged in right here, but not to the wall, just in case you were concerned. But anyway, there you go. It says the leading edge right there with all of the product, serial numbers and everything. So here you can see there's a mono and color, which is what's plugged in. The monitor is plugged into right now. These weird type of like VGA ports, I'm not really exactly sure what they are called, and I've never been able to find any sort of other cable other than this one that came with it for that. But it does have a switch between color and mono if you want to output to, which one you want to output to, because it'll only output to one. It's got a serial connector, of course, and a parallel port connector right there. And also some room for some expansion cards right here. And it's this style expansion card, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it's got 4 slots actually. And then it's got a power socket right there for the monitor, which will be turned on when you turn the switch of the computer on, as seen earlier. So let's spin this around, take a look. Again, there is the power unit right there, and power supply rather. And here are the floppy drives. There are 2 of them. One's on top of the other, of course, and they're both plugged in with your standard power. I'm not sure exactly how many volts that is, but you'll see that on monitor computers too, before SATA. And then we have just a floppy connector right here that just slides right into the unit, as you can see. The processor, I've never really been able to identify it, but there's a couple Intel. It's got an Intel 8088 chip inside of this. No like heat sink for it or anything like that. The only fan is just, again, for the power supply right there. There's the PC speaker that's just mounted on the front, and some little brackets, I'm assuming, to hold these cards that you'd plug in here. So they must have been really long cards. And essentially that's it. This looks a lot like pretty much any other modern day computer you'd have. A lot of these are Korean based or Korean, originating chips. As you can see, it's a lot of Daewoo branded things. It's from Korea. This was manufactured by Daewoo, which doesn't exist anymore, but a lot of stuff in here is Korean. Almost everything says, something in Korean on it. And on a side note, the battery was just removed. I actually rocked it back and forth essentially, and just got the little metal prongs that stuck into the board to break free, and so I didn't even need to solder it. Although I did try heating it up with a soldering iron from the top. I couldn't really get to the bottom. To do that, I would have had to take the whole thing apart, which I think would have taken a ton more time than I need to spend for just a little battery. But nevertheless, breaking it off worked. So none of the little traces in the board seem to be affected. There's only one going underneath it, which is interesting. But that's why it's important to take these out in case those batteries do go. They can ruin a whole computer. I lost a Macintosh 2VX to that, which had already, when I got into it, the battery had already exploded and it ruined a bunch of traces, and the thing won't even boot up anymore. So now this guy is ready to last forever, because there's really nothing in here that is a time bomb, other than maybe some capacitors on the floppy drives, but that's about it. It's ready to be put back together. Alright, so now with one of our floppy drives removed, we're going to bring it over. Alright, so how you take these apart, they have this little metal shield right here that actually kind of spans underneath the circuit board right there, and you have to take that off because the read and write heads are underneath that shield, and you need to get a little Q-tip with alcohol and clean that, but we need to take this metal thing off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some screws off so we can slide that thing off.
What is it that you want to leave? You made me. You're my everything. What is it that you